Hey everyone, welcome to video 2 on the NCI overview and review of pre-survey and background information for the Adult Consumer Survey. So we're now going to be delving into the pre-survey information. The next video will go through the background information more in depth. I am going to be going through the survey using our Odessa system, which some of you may be using. Just so you can get a sense of what that looks like. But this follows in line with what the paper copy of the survey would look like as well. So I'm starting out with that survey code for the background information. This will be supplied to you by the state. Click Next, and then we get into the survey itself. So jumping into the pre-survey, and again, for review, this section is really information that is all collected before the meeting takes place. It's information that's really helpful for the interviewer to set up the meeting, as well as to conduct the interview with the individual. None of the information that is entered here is collected by HSRI or by the state. None of this is used for analysis. It again is only for the interviewer really to be more familiar with the individual who's being surveyed. Alrighty, let's delve into some of these pre-survey questions. And as I go through, you'll see that some of the questions are more applicable to individuals who maybe are going to be completing just a pre-survey question and then handing off the rest of the background information section to someone else. And so those ones may not be applicable for you to fill out, and I'll try and point those out as we go along. So the first question here is pre-survey question A, who's completing this form. This is really just for the interviewer to be able to reference it back to the person who's completing the pre-survey if there are any questions about the information in here. Question B is about the person who's to be surveyed, so the person's name and specifically here the person's street address. And this is for the interviewer to have that address if he or she is going to be meeting at the individual's home for the survey meeting. Question C is about the legal guardian, so if there is a legal guardian, the person's name and relationship. Also, a way to contact the guardian. This is especially important for some states who require consent from the guardian in order to have the survey meeting take place. Pre-survey question D is about consent procedures. For NCI, what's really important here is that individuals to be surveyed are always given the option and information that the survey is totally voluntary. Otherwise, states just have to follow their own consent procedures. Pre-survey question 1 is some contact information. This may be useful to the interviewer, especially if the survey meeting may be taking place at, say, a day program, so the interviewer can speak with somebody to help set up a meeting space and ensure that any time that they set up for a meeting is not in conflict with something else that may be going on at that day program at that time. Other information on this page is about whether there should be an additional person present for the meeting. If this is a yes, if you can just explain to the interviewer why there should be somebody else there. And then any accommodations that the person may need. This can be communication, so if the person will need an interpreter or translator with them, if there are any accessibility requirements, or other things such as medical or allergies that the interviewer should be aware of. So PS2 is a case manager or service coordinator's name if you have it. Really here what's important is just the name of the case manager or service coordinator. And this is so that when the individual starts talking with the individual and asks questions that may be specific to the case manager, being able to use that person's name is really helpful to better orient the individual to the question that's being asked. PS3, this again is something that may not be applicable for you all. It's somebody who can provide information about the individual's employment if he or she is employed in the community. And so this is really somebody who can help provide answers for questions BI 39 through BI 49, which is specific to employment. And then question PS4 is proxy respondents, so the name of family members, guardians, friends, staff who may serve well as a proxy if the person is needed for that section 2 of the survey. We asked the person's living arrangement. This again is for the interviewer specifically, just to know where they may be going to conduct the survey. Name of support staff, and this again is information that may be used throughout the survey when there are questions about staff. Using the staff names can be really helpful for the individual to better understand those questions. Same with question PS7, which is paid employment in a community-based setting. And this is really information specific to a community job. It can also be if the person is working in a small group employment setting, such as a work crew or enclave. Separately, PS8 is about going to a program or a workshop. So PS9 asks about self-advocacy organizations that the person may be familiar with. Sometimes this may be a national chapter of an organization such as People's First or SAVE, or if there are more local self-advocacy organizations in the area that the person may be familiar with. And this should really be self-advocacy organizations specific to self-advocacy for people with DD. We have a question later in the survey that asks whether the person attended a self-advocacy group meeting or event, and so having that name of a familiar organization is really helpful for the person to better understand the term. Then the next couple of questions are around self-directed supports. For the interviewer, what's most important here is if you have a name that describes the participant-directed budget that the person may better understand, such as individual budget or DDS budget. And then question PS11 is the name of a financial management service that the person may use, so a fiscal agent or a fiscal intermediary, if the person works specifically with one individual or is familiar with the agency or service that he or she may work with. That again is really helpful information to have here. And that takes us to the end of the pre-survey section. Our next video is going to start going into those background information questions. Thanks for listening.